The world of humans, women have become dangerously scarce. Every girl born is destined to become a noble's plaything, sold off at auction sooner or later. My sister was one of them. And me? From the moment I took my first breath, my parents raised me as a boy, hiding what I was, just to keep me alive. But one unexpected order shattered the fragile safety we'd clung to. The king had sold my sister to the brutal beast king. With no other choice, I begged to be taken along, planning to use the chance to help her escape. What I didn't know was that the beast king had already taken an interest in me, the fake prince. For 21 years, I wore the mask of Prince Emiriel. But masks don't save you. Men in Navia always saw what they wanted, and they wanted me. They found excuses to get close, their filthy whisper slick against my skin. I was too soft, too small, too pretty. My long black hair and delicate bones betrayed me, no matter how I fought to stand like a prince. Just like my sister Ikaira, we were both prey. And after our parents died 15 years ago, King Orestes made sure we knew it. As I stepped into the hallway leading to Ikaira's chambers, I froze. Soft, pain-laced whimpers drifted through the door. My stomach twisted. Not again. I burst inside, sword drawn. There he was, Lord Murphy, Minister of Human Affairs, pinning my sister beneath him, violating her. "Get your filthy hands off my sister," I snarled, my voice shaking with rage. "Now, or I'll slice you open where you stand." He barely paused. The old bastard glanced at me, scowling. "Go away, little prince," he sneered. "You're ruining the fun." I hated that name, like a reminder I'd never be enough of a man to stop them. "One more move," I said, stepping closer, my blade leveled dangerously at his private parts, "and you'll lose what makes you a man." Murphy's face darkened, his lip curling. "The king wagered her in a card game. I won her, fair and square. She's mine for 2 hours." I lunged, shoved him off her with everything I had. He hit the floor hard, the crash echoing like a crack of thunder. Ikaira scrambled into my arms, her fingers digging into my tunic, her tears hot against my neck. I wrapped her tight, shielding her as best I could, but it wasn't enough. "I don't care what punishment the king gives me," I said, steady and cold, guiding her toward my chambers. She'd spent her whole life protecting me, keeping my secret, and yet she took the worst of the king's cruelty. I hated myself for it, for not stopping it sooner, for not being strong enough. That night, I dreamt of the beast again. A towering figure, broad and monstrous, filled the doorway of my mind. Glowing yellow eyes, claws like daggers. The Urkai. His voice rumbled low, like distant thunder. He spoke filthy, scandalous things that made my skin flush and my body tremble. It always ended the same. The beast on top of me, his claws shredding my clothes, his body violating mine. I woke with a scream, drenched in sweat, chest heaving. "It's just a dream," I whispered to the darkness, but the terror clung to me. And worse, a heat still coiled low in my belly, dark and shameful. The next morning, I was summoned to the courtroom. I thought I knew why. Punishment. For what I did to Lord Murphy. I braced myself as I walked the stone corridor, but something was wrong. No guards sneering, no courtiers whispering. The silence was thick and heavy when I entered the hall. Everyone's eyes were fixed on 2 figures standing at its center. I froze. Urkai. 2 of them. The one with a scar down his cheek stepped forward. His voice was cold as steel. "You are mistaken if you think this is a request, human king," he said. "Give us the princess. We will leave quietly." My blood ran cold. Princess? The doors behind the throne creaked open. Ikaira was dragged into the room, her face pale as death. My knee slammed hard against the cold stone floor. I bowed my head and begged the man we called uncle, King Orestes, for mercy, but the gleam in his eyes was impossible to miss. He was practically trembling with excitement. Ikaira's life, traded for riches and favor beyond measure, our family's survival, our kingdom's prosperity. They couldn't hand her over fast enough. The Urkai stepped forward and tossed a heavy leather pouch onto the floor. It hit the stone with a dull thud, gold coins spilling out in a gleaming arc. My breath caught. "Sold." The king slammed the gavel down without hesitation. "I'll go with her." My voice cut through the air. Ikaira's head snapped toward me, her eyes wide, instantly rimmed red. She shook her head, barely holding back a sob. But I didn't give anyone time to argue. "I'm her brother. I'll keep her safe." I kept my head low, hiding the way my hands trembled as I pressed my fists to the floor. The scarred Urkai, silent until now, let out a low, cold laugh. "Do you even know what it means to be a slave to an Urkai?" His gaze raked over me, sharp and knowing. "You're a pretty boy, soft, delicate. Many masters would love to break you in." My stomach twisted, while burning the back of my throat, but I forced myself to meet his gaze. "Then I'll break," I said, steady as I could, "before they can touch her." "Sold," King Orestes said again, gavel cracking against the stone like a death sentence. 2 Urkai stepped forward and forced bitter pills into our mouths. Darkness crashed over me before I could even resist. When I woke, we were deep in Urkai territory. They led us through endless halls and narrow passages, their footsteps eerily silent on the stone floors. After what felt like hours, we were pushed into a chamber. An elderly woman entered first. She was followed by a younger woman and 3 Urkai men in dark armor. The old woman's gaze landed on me, sharp and lingering. She paused, studying me. "Handsome indeed. I've seen my share of beautiful men, but one as striking as you? Never." I shifted uneasily under her stare, instinctively stepping back until I could feel Ikaira behind me, her arms wrapped around me tightly, protecting me. But the old woman's tone changed, cold, dismissive. "Too bad," she said. "You're not the one we're here for." She turned away as if I were nothing but dust. "Draw a bath. Prepare her." The 3 Urkai men moved toward Ikaira, their hands already reaching for the ties of her clothes. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice raw with panic as I stepped forward. The old woman didn't even flinch. "You can stay, or leave. But if you interfere, I'll call the guards. They'll drag you to the dungeons and let the rats finish the job." I froze, fists clenched at my sides. Ikaira shook her head, a sharp warning in her eyes. "Don't." I stood there helpless, as they stripped her of the last remnants of her dignity. And then I turned and walked out, pacing the empty corridors like a ghost. It was there, in one of the shadowed hallways, that I heard them, 2 nobles, whispering. "What about the boy?" one of them said. "He's not part of the plan." "I don't care," the other answered with a shrug. "Maybe he'll be useful later. We're We're running out of time, the first murmured. She has to be brought to the forbidden chamber tonight. It's cruel, the first one sighed, sending her to the Beast King without any preparation. I don't care, the second snapped. Once the Beast King is satisfied, we can handle the rest. And if that little prince gets in the way, well, he won't be a problem for long. I ran. I had to warn Ikaira. I had to get us out of here. By nightfall, she hadn't spoken in hours. The sister I knew, the graceful, radiant Ikaira, was gone. In her place stood a shadow of herself, dressed in rags that barely covered her, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. Ikaira, I whispered, desperation cracking my voice. We have to go. Now. We still have time. No. She shook her head before I could say more. If we run, she said, and they catch us, they'll strip away your disguise. Her eyes found mine. They'll reveal your secret. And I can't risk that. I grabbed her shoulders, trying to shake some life back into her. Ikaira, you can't do this. That beast will tear you apart. She looked up at me, her eyes empty. I won't let them take you, Emerald. Her voice trembled, but her grip on me was iron. Mother and father gave everything to protect you. Now it's my turn. She exhaled shakily. I love you. I won't let them find out who you are. My throat closed up, and my vision blurred with tears. Then who's going to protect you? They can never know the truth, Emerald. She whispered it like a prayer. Not the humans. Not the Urkai. No one. Just then, the door burst open. The old woman appeared again, with several Urkai soldiers at her back. It's time, the old woman said coldly. Take her away. I reached for my sister, but the woman snapped. Don't touch her. Don't leave your scent on her. Release her immediately. What do you mean? What will happen if I touch her? I asked, instinctively pulling away, a wave of confusion flooding my chest. A strange sensation washed over me, but as she was taken away, I couldn't stop myself. Ignoring the warning, I reached out and gripped Ikaira's arm tightly. Don't do this, I begged, my voice trembling. Ikaira didn't look back at me. Slowly, gently, she pulled her arm from my grasp, disappearing into the darkness, leaving me standing there, paralyzed, unable to move. Back in our chambers, I paced like a caged animal, heart pounding, mind racing. I needed to save her, but as I tried to think, a strange heat began to spread through my body, subtle at first, then burning, hot, blistering hot, not just heat, fire. It crawled under my skin like something alive, something wrong, and I couldn't stand the feeling of my clothes against me. Gasping for air, I tore them off, chest heaving, skin slick with sweat. Then my legs buckled. I collapsed onto the bed, writhing. The heat came in violent waves, crashing through me, setting every nerve alight. What is happening to me? I croaked, clutching the sheets, nails digging in. My vision blurred. My breath came ragged, and then I heard it. Ikaira's scream, faint, far, but real. I twisted in agony. My body refused to move, but my heart was breaking. Help, I whispered, my voice thin and broken. Someone, please.